Hey guys, Dividend Enjoyer here, and today I have some news about a stock that I sold, a new position that I've added to my portfolio, and a position that I added a little bit too. Now, I know I said I was going to be kind of sitting this one out and watching things, but I really think that this business is being very undervalued for the upside potential that is there. And even if there is the downside scenario, I still think that it's at fair or slightly undervalued just because I think that there's a lot of value to be had there. And it has a decent dividend as well. But first off, I want to say that I did add one share of Waste Management because from my last video, I believe it was Yvonne who commented about Waste Management, and because he was thinking about buying it, and I had been looking at it, hoping for a really low price, but I kind of think we might never see Waste Management at 215 again. I think that it's one of those stocks that's very stable in the value of the company. And for that reason, I decided to buy one share for about 220, and I'm pretty glad I did because now it's at 228. And I really enjoy this stock in particular, and I think that it's smart to just add a little bit of it if it's not at the exact price that you want. So for example, if it drops down to 215, 210, somewhere around there, I'm probably going to deploy some significant capital. I'm probably going to maybe even double my position, throw like $2,000 and get really aggressive with it. But since it's around that 220 to 230 range, I think it makes sense to maybe add one share here, one share there, but just to continue to monitor it to see if it gets to that level that I want it to be at. So I did add one share at 220, and I think it was a smart move, and I think I'm going to continue to watch Waste Management, but that's not really the point of this video. The main point of this video is that I now have a $1,000 position in Hasbro, and to achieve that, I sold one share of Meta. And if you guys don't remember me talking about it, I was able to pick up one share of Meta for around $484, and I was able to sell one today before they announced that their AI wasn't ready, which dropped the stock by $15. I was able to sell one share today for $656 about, and then I was able to move $350 in cash and buy $1,000 worth of Hasbro. So what you guys may know about Hasbro is that, yes, they make a ton of toys, but there really is a lot of value there because they also own a lot of very much nerd franchises is what I would call them, like Magic the Gathering, like Dungeons and Dragons, very cult-like, very valuable brands. I mean, if you really look at just those two IPs and you think about the future value of those IPs, you have the Final Fantasy set, which is completely sold out. People are just rushing it. I think the price of a collector box is like $750. So I think they've been massively successful in a lot of their efforts in terms of just Magic to really push these universes beyond things. I know a lot of people probably aren't familiar with Magic the Gathering, but it's very popular. From what I can tell, it is the second most valuable card brand behind Pokemon. There's rabid collectors. People love it, right? And it's always selling out, and it's really Hasbro's most valuable IP that they have. And I think that they're going to continue to be growing at this crazy rate with a very good margin that's really going to kind of carry the rest of the company. But you also have to take into account the fact that Hasbro is also trying to make a lot of their IPs into digital assets, being games, different things like that. You can see like the Monopoly board games coming out and a lot of these different IPs where people aren't really necessarily buying as many board games and things of that nature, and they're electing to do things online. So they're trying to penetrate that market with some IPs that are very valuable. And I think that Hasbro is going to grow more into the future. I think that they're learning how to operate better as a business. And I think that the Magic the Gathering secondary market is proof that they're very smart about the economies of how to run their card games. And I think that they're very smart about how to run their board games as well. And another big thing that Hasbro kind of has going for it in an article that I read is that a lot of them and Mattel's actual production of toys is a lot more domestic than produced in China. So you get an upside if tariffs go up because a lot of the smaller competition that produces exclusively in China is not going to be able to compete because they already have every advantage as the biggest companies in toy making, just in general. And you also have the upside from if there are no tariffs because there's going to be higher free cash flow than what's expected. So these stocks are kind of in the opposite of a catch-22, where either outcome looks to be good and I want to be a long-term holder. In addition, you're getting a 4.5%, I think, or 4.2% dividend annually, which is very solid. It's kind of just a little plus. And also, I really wanted to lock in the profits from Meta. I don't like the crazy volatility that Meta has, and Hasbro has a beta of about 0.5. I know that its performance over the last 5 years has not been great, but that kind of makes sense just because of COVID and all these different things and the fact that people are moving more towards digital forms of entertainment, whether that be video games or things like that. And I think they've recognized that. But I really think the misconception that a lot of people have is that the real money in Hasbro is in the collectibles. So that's kind of why I wanted the position. I think that over the long term, the collectible market is really going to grow, especially as we see the trend of people that are, just being completely honest with you, unmarried and have high incomes. They're going to be spending more of their disposable income on collectible things. And that market of people is growing larger and larger because it's very difficult to be able to even afford to have a family. And this might sound outlandish, this might sound crazy, but I really think that that's going to help a company that produces collectible toys, collectible cards, and things like that. And I think it's a very stable business. I think it's a value play, and it's also going to grow as well. And that might sound ridiculous, but I really think that the trends are pointing that way. Just anecdotally and by the fact that it's such a big bull market, specifically in Magic the Gathering. And I really think that they're going to be able to continue to generate value through Magic and their other IPs, and the fact that their toys are decent margin. I think that you're also going to see that the tariffs are not going to go into effect, so the future anticipated free cash flow is going to be a lot higher. And I'm still holding some Meta. Don't get me wrong. I still have 2 shares of Meta that I got for about 600 on average. So I basically just turned around and flipped one because I wanted to lock in the profits because I'm kind of sick of riding the volatility roller coaster with Meta with so much exposure to it. And not locking in profits when I'm up. So I'm up right now. I want to lock in some profits, and I think that Hasbro is an excellent choice for that. And I also, I talked about it earlier, but adding waste management I think was also very smart. I do think I probably paid a little more than I would have liked to, but if I hold it for the long term, I'm not going to have any problem with that. I did have some hesitations about holding so much Meta when I was up about 15% on it in such a short period of time. So that's kind of why I offloaded a share, just so that I didn't have so much exposure. And after doing a lot of research on just Hasbro in general and their financials and everything like that, I don't like the fact that they're so inconsistent. And I also don't like the fact that if we have a recession, it's not going to be as strong of a company. But I do like the fact that they have really a monopoly on some trading card games, on some board games, on some things like that. They are just the biggest one in this sector. I mean, Mattel has more like Barbies and things like that. I don't really understand them as well. But Hasbro seems like it's just been hurt because of some of their IPs not doing as well in recent years. But I think the long-term prospects of Hasbro are very positive, and I think that it's a very unique add to my portfolio that is going to grow over time, because I think that Magic the Gathering is going to really pull this stock up. I think that it's a very valuable thing that they have, and I think that they're running it completely correctly. And I also think the other toy sales are going to supplement it, and I think that they have a lot of advantages when it comes to these tariffs. So I really think that as a business, they're going to be able to differentiate themselves and be in a better position in a couple of years. And it's such a high dividend. It looks like such a good value play, low PE ratio compared to a lot of other businesses. And I think that there's a lot of room for growth here for Hasbro just in general. I'd be really interested to hear what you guys have to say. I know that this was a really long rant and I was kind of all over the place talking about it, but I just wanted to let you guys know because I said I'd be waiting on the sidelines, but I did deploy about another $570 into the account, and I sold a share of a company which I haven't done for almost maybe since the start of this channel. I haven't sold anything, so this is a pretty big deal for the channel, but I really just didn't want to ride the meta volatility roller coaster with such large exposure. But I do think that Meta is probably going to be a very good long-term company to be holding. But when you see a big profits and you see a company that you want some exposure to that's a little less risky, I think it makes sense to sell the riskier asset that you made money on and put it into the less risky asset that you believe is really heavily undervalued. And I believe that Hasbro's in that position. I think that it's a very strong business, and I think that it's really undervalued for what it is, especially considering the value of all of the IPs that they have. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. If you guys think that Hasbro's a dud or not. I think it's a very interesting prospect, and I'm glad I was able to get my profits before Meta announced that their AI is not ready. So thank you guys for watching. I just wanted to give you this quick update. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.